To my fellow community members of the City of Cincinnati, I want to express the gratitude I feel for the compassion witnessed within our city, within our nation, and throughout the world in this extremely uncertain time. I've watched such communities unite to support one another, even within the confines of our social distancing and isolation. The measures we were forced to take in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic have been austere and taxing, as we struggle to come to terms with such precarity. We've been forced to reconcile within our isolation, as thousands have died, as millions are laid off from their jobs, and all the while, doctors, nurses, and essential workers have sacrificed their well-being for the sake of humanity. Though our future is uncertain and our present is strenuous, we must not lose our optimism for the light that lies at the end of the tunnel. Just as we have built our city of Cincinnati upon tenets of resilience and compassion, I'm optimistic that we will continue to unify long after the pandemic has ended. Now, nearly every aspect of our lives has been affected by this pandemic. Parents and children, home from work and from school, have watched the world around them come to a halt. Public institutions that once provided our community opportunities for education and unification have closed indefinitely, stranding families who most rely on them. Institutions such as My Cincinnati and Price Hill, a children's community orchestra that uses ensemble-based music as a vehicle for youth development and community engagement by providing children with access to free, intense, high-quality music education. And the Cincinnati Public Library, where 41 locations are closed to the public indefinitely. These institutions, unable to provide their given resources, have taken on the challenge of this pandemic, and instead of closing their doors to the public, have graciously opened them wider. My Cincinnati has moved their resources completely online, offering music lessons and instrument recordings to families via digital and video communications. The Cincinnati Public Library, unable to utilize their building or offer physical book checkouts, has moved many of their resources to digital platforms. And even greater, during the pandemic, the Cincinnati Public Library has provided curbside meals every single week for youth ages 18 or younger, as a large portion of families in the greater Cincinnati area are unable to provide regular meals for their family without aid. My Cincinnati and the Cincinnati Public Library are just a few examples of how our community has quickly grown to serve and support each other during this crisis. We should look to such community institutions for inspiration of how we can continue to support each other even in our isolation, but we should also understand what has led to such reliance on these community institutions. So now we must ask why. Why have local institutions opened their doors so wide? Why must families in our community rely on the Cincinnati Public Library to provide food for their families? And why are they unable to provide for their families themselves? Why has My Cincinnati continued their educational efforts within a digital realm? It's crucial to understand how many families in the greater Cincinnati area were already facing extreme hardship even before this pandemic. Systemic inequity deriving from food deserts, housing poverty, and displacement have already forced over 40% of the children in Cincinnati, that's over 26,000 children in Cincinnati, into poverty. The long-term effects caused by injustices like childhood poverty are devastating. Educational attainment, life expectancy, and most relevant, the health and well-being of our community's children are threatened not just during childhood, but long after a child born into poverty has grown up. And so it's programs like My Cincinnati, providing creative and educational services for free, and the Cincinnati Public Library, providing meals daily for children in our community who bear the brunt of this pandemic, in order to support our community when they are unable to do so themselves. We must look to these institutions for inspiration, but we must also remember what injustices have led to such poverty and inequity. We must ask our city's government and infrastructure to do better, to fight to take care of our communities, to fight for the children in our communities, to prevent this threat during and especially after the pandemic. So I thank the Cincinnati Public Library, and I thank My Cincinnati, and I commend them for their dutiful services, but I also ask our communities to remember why injustices like childhood poverty have contributed to such heavy dependency on these institutions in this arduous time. So whether it's through monetary support of local businesses or through donation of time or resources to public institutions, we can help each other through the darkness. Every local business is struggling to maintain financial stability, and with a majority of us laid off from our jobs, it can be difficult to locate the means to support each other during our own struggle. However, this should not prohibit us from keeping a watchful eye on those around us. Friends, neighbors, and family members alike will face hardship in the coming months, but we can help each other by offering words of kindness, of generosity, and of compassion in this dark time. Though the darkness we're living in is no doubt unprecedented, I have witnessed the strength of our community, and I am faithful that we will continue to support each other through the darkness to the other side. In the coming months, things will not necessarily become easier, but we can reinforce our already strong community. In the coming months, our collective struggle will grow. In the coming months, our limits will be tested. But in the coming months, we will come together, united by a common goal to help one another for the sake of the greater good. Thank you.